Hey, it's the weekend Redeye, number 7. Free Tommy. So yeah, I know everybody's talking about it, but Tommy Robinson was arrested on Friday for, how did they put it? Breaching the peace or something like that?
Yeah,
Right?
literally, specifically, he was arrested for breaching the peace. And he was literally just standing outside of a courthouse, and he was covering the trial of a rape gang, essentially. I think it was 3 men standing on trial that day, or something along those lines. But he was just standing outside, and he was just reporting on the fact. And police, I think it was like 4 or 5 police officers came along. Apparently, it takes 4 people to subdue, one skinny guy with a phone streaming on Periscope, I suppose.
Yeah, he wasn't even streaming to YouTube either, which is weird. He was streaming to fucking Periscope. So, I mean, even the audience reach, if that's what you're worried about, isn't going to be that large on Periscope, I don't think. I know they're tied to Twitter, though, aren't they? So it does just stream live to Twitter. Is that how it works?
Yeah, or I don't know if it streams to Twitter, but I do think that there is some kind of I do think that there is some kind of hookup that they have with some social media site.
But I mean, we did talk about this a little bit yesterday with MC over on his channel. But today, only 24 hours after he was not only arrested, but sentenced to 13 months in prison, which he might be murdered. I mean, let's be real. It's a fact. The Muslims that are in prison do not like him. And the warden and the guards don't really necessarily like him, I don't think. Because they set him up before, right? They put him in a room with 5 or 6 Muslims and locked the door and walked away.
Yeah, literally. And that's happened multiple times. There was actually one guy that ended up dying. So, yeah, there's a good chance that they're going to lock that door and they will not be coming back this time.
Yeah, but just, within 24 hours, a few hundred people, what did the news article say? Far-right activists descended upon Whitehall, right? How ominous and evil these people were. You know what they were doing? They weren't even carrying butter knives. They had signs that said "Free Tommy," and they were streaming, and they were doing speeches. They weren't violent. It seems to me that every time there's a protest from anybody further right than Bernie Sanders, then it's far right Nazis, evil, hateful racists that are coming to tear apart London. It's insanity.
Yeah. Yeah, the article goes on about this. It says many protesters have been seen holding aloft hashtag Free Tommy signs or waving flags, including the St. George's Cross, Union Jack, or the UKIP logo. One woman held a cardboard sign which read, "Free the truth teller, free Tommy." And of course there are a bunch of people, people like their signs and whatnot. One I think that is funny is that it says, "Am I being arrested because I'm breaching the peace?" So that's what one of the other signs said. Yeah, but there's a ton of people out there actually. It states, does it state the number? Because I literally just pulled this article up really quick. No, it doesn't say how many. It doesn't say how many people were actually out there physically. But it does mention one other important thing. And that is, meanwhile, almost 70,000 people have signed a petition calling for Mr. Robinson to be freed. But here's the funny thing is that this article was posted 6 hours ago. Funny thing, that has doubled on the since the original time that they reported. So it's around 140 some odd thousand signatures. And that's accounting. That's not accounting, rather, for all the doubles. There was another one that had like, oh shoot, I forgot, like 13 or 14,000 signatures. And that's just one other petition on change.org. So I'm sure there are plenty of other petitions out there. I'm sure plenty of people are writing letters and out protesting. So there's definitely a lot of people involved in this. And what's funny is that I bet you if I go to Twitter right now, there ain't going to be shit trending.
Yeah, I actually was on Twitter before we went live, and I didn't see the hashtag trending at all. But I saw a lot of people I follow throwing that hashtag out, so I know it should be on my list of trending hashtags. But no, of course not.
Yeah. No, they're gonna pull the same dubious shit that like even YouTube is doing right now. How they recently, and I noticed this actually a while back. I just didn't say anything because I genuinely thought I was retarded. But I use YouTube the most on my phone, like when I'm at work. I'll listen to podcasts, books, whatever it might be. But I noticed that I wasn't getting videos right away, and when I do look at videos, it's like a shotgun effect. They're all out of order. And sometimes every once in a while it was a video that, or it was a channel that I literally wasn't subscribed to in my sub feed for some reason, but like they're all out of order. I'm getting like recommendations in my, I'm getting like videos in my sub feed that were like, oh, posted 6 days ago. It's like, cool, I guess I'll watch it now. But they're gonna do the same shit YouTube's doing. They're gonna suppress things, rearrange algorithms. They're gonna fuck with people as much as humanly possible until they get their way.
No, absolutely. And I showed you guys in Discord the last stream I did on my main channel. That night is when I did the drunken stream at like 2 in the morning or whatever and played music. That's the only thing I could think of that got me in trouble. And usually when you get in YouTube jail or whatever, you get your streaming revoked for 3 months, right? Well, it's been over 3 months and I still can't stream on my main channel. I still have no community guideline strikes and no copyright strikes. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, well, there's a good chance you'll never know what's going on because it's like when you first actually tried to contact them, you got nothing but stonewalled. Just receiving responses from bots, and by the time you do actually get another person, who like get an actual person, who fucking knows until that happens.
Yeah, I even tried to reach out to Trusted Flagger Ben, who I heard is really cool, and he's helped a lot of political commentators, after they got struck down. And he never even responded to me. Maybe because I'm too small time, only have 1,000 something subs, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll fucking never know, dude. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it seems it gets more and more like 1984, especially the UK. I mean, he was literally just standing there with his cell phone, and now he's in jail for 13 months. Baring was kicked off of YouTube completely just a couple days ago. I mean, I guess I always made fun of InfoWars because, there's an info war going on, but it kind of seems to be more and more accurate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of. It's actually funny that you mentioned that because I was gonna keep this like SS super secret, but I'm actually gonna do like a small video series about 1984. And how far am I in? 244 pages in so far, out of like 400 or 408, right? But yeah, it's getting really damn bad, dude. Like it's getting pretty fucking crazy, especially when you start because there's this thing in the book, right? And it's super fucking crazy. It's called like 2 minutes of hate, or like 2 minutes of hate or something along those lines, right? And so people gather around this television and they'll listen to the propaganda from INSOC, or from the English socialists, the socialist state that's in control. So they'll listen to the propaganda and they'll parade this person around. His name is Emmanuel Goldstein, and he's like a terrorist. He's someone who's an enemy of the state, much like Tommy Robinson is. And so they'll parade him around and say, "Oh, well, he's doing all these bad things. He's killing and raping, and he's a terrorist, and yada yada yada." And for literally 2 solid minutes, people are forced to scream at this television and say awful things like, hang him and, kill him and everything like that. And it's so funny because like that's exactly the kind of fucking behavior that we're seeing on Twitter. That is the exact behavior that we're seeing on Twitter. You know, Tommy Robinson gets arrested for some innocuous bullshit like breaching lay peace. And, you know, people are out in droves and they're condemning him. And funny enough, we saw it with Burnt Biscuit or Total Biscuit, something like that. You know, exact same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, I saw people tweeting, "Oh, Harvey Weinstein got arrested and Tommy Robinson got arrested in the same day. I believe in God again," or some stupid shit like that. And okay, there's a big difference between recording outside of a courthouse where some sicko fucking rapist is being tried inside and being a rapist. That's what we're talking about when you're comparing Weinstein to fucking Tommy Robinson. What the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to say that that tweet that you saw, that was like the ultimate fucking virtue signal I've ever heard. You know, what's this? Condemning white male racists and rapists. Oh, and you're talking about how atheistic you are. Fucking don't cut yourself in all that edge, buddy.
Oh, I know, yeah. Fucking smother yourself in your fedora, you cunt.
Yeah. Oh my god, man. Yeah, but the like not even necessarily just like the actions of the police, but the things that people are saying are, you know, scary. It's definitely a little bit of foreshadowing what we're stepping into in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't necessarily blame social media for dumbing down the population. All right. But it doesn't help. I mean, really, how retarded do you have to be to think it's a good idea to lock a man up for 13 months for nothing? For standing on the corner with his cell phone on. That's it. That's all he fucking did. And you're in London. There's on every fucking corner. What do you mean don't record? You're recording everything everybody does at all hours of the day and night. What the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, that's certainly a little hypocritical. Yeah, but he's I don't know, dude. I hope I'm wrong, but I totally agree with you. I got this feeling like deep down in my stomach that there's a good chance Tommy Robinson might be a fucking just absolute dead man walking, you know, but at the same time, do they want to make him martyr? I don't know. I guess those are the $2 million questions.
Well, and here's the thing. It's kind of scary to say, but I kind of believe this. If he gets killed in prison because they just locked him in a room with some Muslims and walked away, then that might finally wake up the British people. You might see a riot on the streets of London, and it won't be the Muslims this time. You know what I mean? Something has to change, or they are lost. You know, the country that Churchill defended from the Nazis is turning into a Nazi country, at least when it comes to civil liberties.
Yeah, and gosh, I don't know. It sucks. You know, I wish I could only just blame the establishment and that would be all. But your politicians don't come into power without votes. So there is certainly a segment of the population to blame for all this, and we're seeing them out in droves today on Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely. And Cabbage, I bring up Winston Churchill. And here you add up in my opening. What say you about the protest today? I'm happy that within 24 hours they got a few hundred people together at least.
Oh yeah, I mean that's pretty impressive when you consider it was just done overnight. You got to remember that, yeah, London is pretty much now Muslim, as we know, right? So 45% is white. So these people had to also get there, you know, they had to get in the car, travel and everything. And plus, this is a bank holiday weekend. So a lot of people will have already had plans to go away for a long weekend or something. So to get that many people, pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, that is. I didn't realize it was a bank holiday over there. Wow, dude.
Yep. So bank holiday Monday. So
Ooh.
people are doing the 4-day, weekend.
Yeah.
So yes, it's and it will build. They already have. I think there's another one planned for tomorrow. And then there's going to be another one next week.
Oh,
if
yeah.
he's still in.
I was about to say, dude, I bet you if you give it a week or two's time, it will be probably twice, maybe 3 times as big. And all the heavy hitters are going to come out there. There's going to be the Sargons and the Millennial Woes and all that.
Have you not seen Sargon's latest, the video he did? Spineless little prick. He says, well, I would like to speak about Tommy Robinson, but I can't because of, my family. It's like, what? Yeah, I know. It's like, well, if you care about your family, surely this is what you should be talking about. This is what you can.
Fucking dumb excuse. Hold on. Okay, so he's not gonna go out and defend Tommy Robinson, someone he sat down and had a fucking interview with.
Yep. He basically just said can't do it, and then the video is a video about British prisons. What's going on. Because he wouldn't address it. So I've been getting a lot of requests to do a video about Tommy, but got to think of the family.
Oh my fucking god. Dude, you should have thought about that before you fucking sat down and did a goddamn interview with the man. Yep. Maybe you should have considered your family then. You fucking silly bitch.
I left him a comment.
God. Fucking dumbass.
I know, it's disgraceful.
I'm gonna go to his channel just to fucking dislike that video. That really fucking
Then I'll leave a comment too.
Oh, I fucking will. This is absolutely... What fucking goddamn intellectual cancer is this?
Well, like I said, listen to the first part. It's only the first minute where he's trying to justify why he's not going to talk about Tommy. So you can, so you'll get the context of it yourself. If you read it the same way as I do, then hopefully, but if not, don't just take my word for it, double check it. It's only a minute or something. Take the time to do that. But talk about intellectual lily-liveredness or spinelessness.
Yeah, and I'm confused by that. Is he afraid of being arrested? Or is he afraid of death threats?
I don't know. He doesn't explain. He just says, I've got to think of my family. So, maybe it could be, because I think they put a D notice on it, on this. So, if the mainstream media, if you get issued with a thing called a D notice, you're not allowed to speak about, anything to do with it. It's literally a gagging order for the population and the media.
Do you think that they could issue these to YouTubers?
That's what I'm wondering. That may be possible that could happen. So, that would mean his entire livelihood would come to a crashing. But I'm sure he could do something and have it hosted on somebody else's channel or something. I'm sure there are ways around it.
Because this makes me... Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, real quick, and then go ahead, 40. Adrian's in the chat, and I couldn't agree with him more. He says, this is why Sargon's liberalist group is pathetic. I agree 100%, Adrian. This is pathetic, and if you're trying to create a political group or a party or something like that, then you need to speak about the issues of the day and the issues that are important in your country. And I would assume that a man being arrested for live streaming on the street corner would be a fucking issue. All right. That's a freedom of speech issue.
Exactly. But hell, we know that they've taken our freedom of speech away pretty much. So, but now they're getting to the point now of black bagging people on street corners. It's going to be like fucking Russia and 19 whatever, 20 something. Stalin period. Well, the Lenin period, and then Stalin. People will just start disappearing, and nobody will know where they are because nobody's allowed to report what's going on.
Yeah.
I think you guys should have a protest on the 5th of November, but I'm just saying. Go ahead for it.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to bring up is it makes me wonder if maybe Sargon's already got this D notice or whatever it was that you referred to. It makes me wonder if he's already got one.
It could be, but the thing is, I think if a D notice is issued in the court, even if you don't know about it, like say for example, I hadn't heard anything about it, and then I just happened to spot something on, on YouTube, and then I report it. I report on it, like having a chat with you guys, right? I mean, I don't know whether technically I'm violating the D notice because I don't even know if it applies to me. But ignorance of the law is no defense, is it?
Yeah, it isn't.
So,
well, and I was arguing with the man last night on Chairview's channel, and Chair is awesome. I'm not mad at him at all. The guest he had on was a prick, but he's saying he literally said that you should not be able to be anonymous anymore on the internet. Well, look at the UK. If Cabbage was not anonymous right now, he could be in the cell right next to Tommy. This shit is getting insane.
Yeah. It really is. It's totally out of control. When people talk about, how you see the creep of tyranny, this is how it happens. The cameras go up, the surveillance starts increasing, the number of knocks on the door because, for petty violations. Meanwhile, major crime is ravaging the whole of London and major cities, because they're cutting the police force down, while they're also introducing Sharia law courts. I mean, it's
literally already approved those.
So, I mean, you couldn't really... if you wanted to concoct the potential tyranny of the future, this is exactly how you would do it. Maybe that's what they're testing. Maybe we're a test bed, a petri dish.
Well, yeah, and I had never heard about this other thing until I saw Lauren Southern's video on the Tommy thing. She broke the news immediately after he was arrested. But Brittany Pettibone, her boyfriend or fiance, whatever, I don't know, was arrested in Austria. Somebody just showed up at the door showed up at the coffee shop that they were hanging out in and just dragged him off and arrested him for pretty much thought crimes.
When was this?
I don't know when it happened, but Lauren Southern put out her video yesterday. That's how I heard about the Tommy thing. Immediately was Lauren, and then I saw Brittany Pettibone's video. Also, it was in the related videos, and I think Brittany talked about it too. So yeah, shit is getting pretty fucking crazy over in, for lack of a better term, Europe. I don't know, without being anonymous on the internet, if anybody would have freedom of speech at all in the whole continent. What say you guys?
I mean, I already think that it's being fucking degraded. I mean, just look at Millennial Woes is the perfect fucking example. Even if you are anonymous, for as long as humanly possible, then they'll stalk you online until they find out where you live. They'll watch you every second of the day until you fuck up and you slip up and you say, I live by fucking Manchester, or, I live just north of Manchester or some shit like that. And then next thing you know, they're going to be looking around the city. They're going to be looking for someone that sounds like you. And, it's going to be this. And if it's not like the police, then it's going to be the social justice warriors, right? It's going to be the unofficial Stasi of the goddamn police force.
Well, that's true. Meanwhile, of course, they can track down and spend a fortune trying to hunt down a guy who says something that upsets Theresa May, but leave thousands of young girls being raped in cities. We shouldn't deal with that. Far bigger fish to fry.
Well, ignorance is strength, Cabbage. Don't you know that?
Yes,
well, do you think that's a tactic to cool the masses? Kind of like the Ireland vote for abortion. That just really makes the liberals happy, and it cools the masses. That way they're more easily controlled, right? No. And God forbid you're a rebel and you actually speak up. God forbid you're that guy in that Nazi picture that everybody and their dog has seen, where everybody else is doing the salute and he's got his arms crossed. Like, what is this bullshit? God forbid you're that guy.
Yeah, but I mean, that just goes to show, right? Even if they did want to cull and control the masses, that just goes to show the fucking enormous amount of doublethink. I mean, yeah, let's cull and control the masses. oh, but let's bring in all these fucking migrants that commit crimes, people who we literally can't control, who are dropping off the radar and we can't track through our immigration or vetting programs. Let's bring in all these people that just, walk about the streets freely. Like, I think the most astounding fucking story I heard about a girl who was raped 3 times on her way home from a fucking bar in London. And it's just like, oh my fucking God, dude. I don't fucking believe it.
Nothing surprises me about London anymore. Absolutely nothing. I'm numb to it. The amount of shit that you hear coming out of that place. I'm so glad I don't live there. I mean, I lived there for a little while, and it was going down the shitter then. Yeah. But that was 20 odd years ago. I mean, now, the last time I went down, I didn't even recognize the place. It was like I'd landed in a different country.
Yeah, that's so true. I remember it was what attack was it? I think it was in the UK, but Ariana Grande concert that was attacked.
Oh, it was Manchester. That was in Manchester.
Oh, Manchester. Yeah, so Ariana Grande concert got attacked in Manchester. And like when I saw it, I was like, lol, sucks to be in Manchester. So it's like it's something I just don't even fucking take seriously anymore.
Well, I mean, you either laugh or you cry, but hopefully people stand up and actually start doing something about it. We need a lot more Tommy Robinsons.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
What we need, I mean...
Well, they can't arrest you all, right? You all stand up, and they can't take you all. They can't put you all in that little penalty box they lock them into. And I see you in the chat. We're not really debating abortion today. I brought that up because there was a major story out of London, or out of Ireland. But today I really want to talk about freedom of speech, and 40 has a couple of stories we'll cover here in a little bit. But if you would like to join, if you would like to join, link is in Discord. I just don't want to argue with you about abortion right now. So let's talk about Tommy Robinson if you do join.
So I was going to say, with this freedom, with regards to what's happening with Tommy, when he did that, you remember there was the freedom of speech march that happened a few weeks ago, and Tommy Robinson stood up. Sargon was there again. You see Sargon, happy to be there then.
Yeah,
stood up, and but Tommy did a long speech, and everyone was. And the thing is that, and the government hates him for this because he has been the leader of political parties, and they sing his name. They have their own little chant and things. So the government, they can see he is growing and growing and growing in power base. In the power base that he has. And he is certainly a populist, person with a lot of people. I mean, even I was never 100% about, him as a kind of a character. Because I always thought, I mean, he admittedly he was a bit of a rough guy when he was younger. But to see where he's come from and where what he's become, is quite impressive. You can't judge a 21-year-old, someone that's in 35 or whatever. As they were when they were 21. So when the government sees him, having all of that support, it was no surprise that they were looking for any opportunity. Just whatever you do, if he does even the slightest thing that you think or you can classify as breach of the peace or whatever nonsense you can trump up, get him, because they want him off the street. They do not want him there. He's garnering way too much support, and he's pulling attention to all the things the government wants to avoid, being talked about, being addressed.
Well, absolutely, because like I said earlier, I was watching that Dave Cullen video, and he's talking about Ireland, and he's showing these gigantic, pretty much plant holders. But they're huge. What they are is a barrier, so nobody could drive a fucking truck apiece through a crowded business district. Okay, it's that big. It's almost like the boardwalk in a major city. It's in Belfast that he was showing. But yeah, so nobody knows why they're really there because they pretty them up with trees and shit. So if you lose a Tommy Robinson, or even if a Sargon loses his balls and won't fucking open his mouth anymore, then nobody is going to know unless they are assaulted themselves, and then they're told to keep quiet for the betterment of our cultural fucking enrichment. It's ridiculous. No, and I'm a libertarian. I believe in ultimate freedom for people. And I have a lot of leftist, as they would call it, ideals, but they're really pushing me to the right. Like everything, the YouTube censorship, the Twitter shadow bans, the fact that you can't open your mouth about anything anywhere anymore. They are shoving me to the fucking ultra right. And that's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's actually really funny you mentioned that, because I was thinking about that like 2 or 3 weeks ago. This is like, when I started this, I was a libertarian, but it's just like now I can't tell if it's the Overton window or like I can't tell what it is, but I definitely do feel as if I'm moving farther to the right. It's fucking sad, dude.
I don't think I'm moving further to the right. It's just the left is getting more and more and more tyrannical and further and further and further to the left. I mean, it's like if you move a scale, you can stay in the same place, but you know what I mean? More people are coming, are shifting to, different positions, but, around you. Because I've pretty much still got the same opinions. I mean, I do still have, I would say fairly pragmatic opinions on certain things like the NHS and, and the need for safety nets and stuff like that to prevent society from collapsing. So I'm still, relatively balanced, I think, in my judgment. But I'm getting less and less tolerant of the lunacy that's going on in the left. I think my tolerance level's gone down. That's where I've been affected.
Yeah, that seems about right. Your tolerance level is definitely fucking dwindling. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, how can it not? How can it not when every day we are bombarded with this? I still can't stream on my main YouTube channel. Bearing is kicked off YouTube. They arrest Tommy Robinson. They ban Lauren Southern from entering the UK. I mean, what the fuck?
It is, mate. It's getting so bad. And unless people actually start, it will. This is the problem with British people, though. The average British person, I don't mean one of these newly acquired Britons. Traditional Britons are, they're very placid, generally speaking. Just get on with life, keep the head down, just get on with work and, do their thing. But it will kick off. And the trouble is that we tend to snap. You don't see, there isn't going to be much of a growth. You know what I mean? You'll see demonstrations or whatever. But then all of a sudden, it will just go fucking nuts. And it will be people turning over cars but it won't be Antifa. It will be the average, Briton who's just sick and tired of it, going down and trying to sack Westminster.
yeah, like tying their trucks up to the fucking the Tower of London. Let's pull this bitch down.
Yeah, say goodbye. Say goodbye to Big Ben.
Maybe that's an American way though, because we're the crazy bastards that would use our trucks for that.
Mate, there are people who are planning different kinds of ways of getting the government's attention to actually get them to start towing the line of listening to the people, and some of them are quite creative, and and they are exceptionally disruptive, and the government would be in no way able to control them, because they'd be so dispersed. Like, for example, one of them is closing down the whole of the M25 is a motorway that goes all the way around London. And literally just parked cars, just loads of cars parked on every on-ramp.
So you're going to go the Brazilian trucker route.
Yeah, close it, just basically stop anyone getting into the city. Stop all pretty much everything then in terms of the commuter band. And then also in London, because the roads are so tiny. I mean, if you look at a map of London, they're only one lane thick, one lane each way. We don't have these big roads like you do. It doesn't take much to shut down London. All you need to do is close down about half a dozen, the major streets, and you got gridlock. Yeah. London is backed up for a day. So it's actually, and there was other ones, which is there's been a whole bunch of them with these, people who are throwing around ideas, and if people are throwing these ideas around, they're not pissing about. They just need to kind of work out what to do, and then when they've come to the conclusion, which is the best approach, it's going to happen, and that can't be in the too distant future, and it's going to happen this summer.
That's good.
Well, so are you actually thinking that there might be a summer of rage in the UK?
Well, we have to do it in summer. The weather's shit otherwise. Once you get to autumn, it's all a bit cold. So this is the time to do it. Seriously, you know what I mean? You got to plan.
That's great. We would overthrow the government, but it's a bit nippy out. We'll wait for July.
Mark it on the calendar, Dory.
Well, that's funny. Oh, Jesus.
But the loads of marches that are being planned that are coming up. I mean, it really is starting to. And the great thing is, like, there's always marches going on, but they're all about different things, you know. So people get sick and tired of them because it's like, well, 1 week it's for this, 1 week it's for that. But these are going to be consistent. It's always going to be the same thing, and it's going to be week after week after week after week. The only problem I have with this, though, and I can understand why they do it, no point doing it on a fucking weekend. You need to do it in the middle of the week. Now, I understand people can't necessarily get time off work, so the numbers would be smaller. But you could actually do something like surround Westminster, or, you know, you could add, you know, you're going to see the people who you want to get the message to. On the weekend, they're all fucked off home.
Yeah.
There's nobody there. You can shout your heart out. There's nobody in.
Oh yeah, get together at 8 or 9 in the morning when everyone's going to work and shut down a bunch of roads. That'll real fucking piss people off.
Yep, on a Wednesday. Yeah.
Well,
Wednesday's suck enough already. Let's just add extra layer of shit on top.
Well, Loafer is in the chat, and he says this polarization will inevitably lead to violence and insurrection. Yep. I think that's pretty much what you were saying, and
absolutely,
I kind of agree. I hope it doesn't, but I don't necessarily see another way out of this mess.
Look, well, I mean, the thing is, the protests are not to achieve anything as such, okay? Because we already know governments ignore protests. It makes people feel good. It's kind of like a virtue signal. Mm-hmm. You know, and so if you're doing it with that intention. But what's currently happening is that people are doing the protests in order to give people the confidence to, you know, to feel safe in what, you know, that they actually aren't going completely mad, and that the world has, you know, the world's gone mad, they haven't, you know. So it's a confidence builder in that regard, for just to even see a large demonstration with something that you agree with is quite a boost to your confidence. Mm-hmm. So it's, you know, they are useful. We already know government will do absolutely fuck all if people demonstrate. But yeah. I mean, look, but, you know, million-man march to try and stop the Iraq invasion. I mean, we've had plenty of them, big, you know, fucking massive ones. I mean, if you look back at the days of Margaret Thatcher with the poll tax, another tax that they tried to impose. I mean, London damn near went up in flames.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, to some degree, I mean, protests are nothing special, like a child crying themselves to sleep, you know, exactly like you said. Makes people feel good, and then they go home and they shut up for another, you know, 2-3 months at a time. Mm-hmm. But I mean, fuck, man, you really do have to question sometimes. Like, I don't want to ask the question, is extremist action necessary? Because that sounds shitty, but do you need to kick it up a notch? You know, and I'm not talking like to the point of, you know, run up to Parliament and, you know, spray paint Theresa May getting, you know, fucked by, you know, a big black dick or something, but you know, do something a little more constructive. You know, like there have been protests in Sweden, like snap protests, mm-hmm. where, you know, they'll go out at some random time in the day, that way the police can't stop them, and, you know, they're all dressed casually and they mingle as if they're citizens, but then it's a staged snap protest that's super spontaneous, and they hold up banners, mm-hmm. and they, you know, blow air horns, and it's super loud and disrupts everyone for, you know, a good, mm-hmm. you know, 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then they've all fucked off because the police are coming to shut them down and jail them, you know, so.
That was a clever idea. I mean, it could work. I mean, but this is the thing. Yeah. People need to try different things in different places. And yeah, I mean, there'll be absolutely no harm in doing something like that. It couldn't do any harm. Well, like I said, the same thing with these other, you know, ideas for demonstrations, just people sitting in the streets, you know, 100 deep. I mean, how long is it going to take the police to individually lift people off? I mean, that's like an hour or two's work. Well, you know, and then other people keep getting, you know, sitting in front of them, and then you know what I mean? And they just move to a different street and just do the same thing again. So, I mean, there are
split into multiple parties. Shit, you could shut down good swaths of the city, I'm sure.
Exactly, and you wouldn't have. I mean, and it's peaceful. I mean, I think peaceful. I think what's the term for it?
Like civil disobedience.
Yeah, civil disobedience is the way to go. But you don't want to piss off. I mean, in London, I couldn't give a shit because, like I say, most of them are fucking Muslims anyway. But, you know, in the rest of the city, you know, the rest of the country, we do want to see life be able to carry on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, some of them are going a bit extreme and saying, shut the whole country down. The whole country should go on strike. You know, I think that's, well, number one, it's ludicrous because you could never achieve it. But even if you did, and you do it for a week, I mean, who's going to let everyone know? You know, everyone would be going out and buying a week's worth of food and things like that. And it would just create it would be chaos, absolute chaos. And some people wouldn't go. And then you just create more divisions because then the people who did go to work, who had to pay the bills, you know, would then be persecuted by the ones who took the week off and wanted to, you know, can then claim that they've got some virtue that the poor bastard who can't afford to keep his electricity on, you know, but he has to go to work. And it's just, you know, it would get very messy.
Well,
civil disobedience at every opportunity that we can, definitely.
Yeah, and don't get what I'm about to say confused. It is not a call for action, so it's not against terms of service or please don't arrest me. But what happens when eventually somebody does go the way of Guy Fawkes? All right, what happens when somebody says enough is enough and they fucking blow something up or do something really fucking stupid? That could be the spark that ignites the revolution, so to say. And I don't necessarily want to see that happen, but if they keep it up, if the government keeps doing what they're currently doing, it's inevitable. It's gonna happen.
It will, and it really is. It's in the government's hands. I don't know whether they realize just what the situation is. Maybe they want it because this is, again, it's a great opportunity for government to do power grab. Somebody does something crazy. Now we need more power to settle. You know, we call in the military or something to take back control of the streets. You know, I mean, in a way. I mean, anything like that generally works to the favor of the government. That's why the civil disobedience is the best way to do it. And even better, you know, people doing it wearing silly things like a chicken suit and things like that. So you got this, like police officers having to arrest a chicken, and that's on the the news that evening. I mean, that's just funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. Oh my god, I'd love to see that so much.
You see, and it would just make other people a little bit more and be like, yeah, okay, I can get in with this. You know.
It makes the government look like fucking idiots too. You know, you're arresting people in chicken suits. Yeah. That's a step removed from a bad fucking joke. You know.
Exactly. I mean, just the cutest things that you can think of. You know, I mean, everyone going as furries or something. It'd be funny. It'd be fucking hilarious. Yeah. Well, one of the ones that that was very clever was during the Occupy movement. And there's one group that was, they were the smarter ones. They weren't the ones that got all the attention. It was another one with just in a park a little way over. And they were all dressed in perfect suits. You know, like, I mean, not tailored, but you know what I mean? Good quality off the shelf. So when the police started to try and arrest them, I mean, these people, they looked like they worked in a bank. So you could see the police just arresting a whole bunch of people in suits and ties. It wasn't hippies and a bunch of gutter snipes, so it made for really bad optics.
Yeah. Man.
Well, once again, Adrian in the chat brought up another good idea. I think the best civil disobedience would be a large-scale tax strike. What happens if all of you guys just stop paying taxes? They can't necessarily arrest all of you. Once again, I mean,
they can't. Unfortunately, we have a thing called PAYE, which is pay as you earn. The company takes your taxes out directly from your salary and sends it to the government. It's beyond your control. You don't receive the money and then get asked for a tax. We don't do tax bills at the end of the year, unless you're self-employed.
Yeah, that's
Well,
I actually have that set up as well. I pay as I earn, so no getting out of that shit.
mhm. They got you by the nuts if you're on PAYE, and that's 90% of the population.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're
Is
self-employed,
there
you could do
any
that. But the one thing you don't want to do is fuck with the inland revenue. They are absolute fuckers.
well, is there any politicians that are standing up for freedom of speech and saying this is fucking wrong and raising hell in Parliament?
Yeah, there have been. There's been a few, but unfortunately, I mean, this is the problem that we have. Well, we know that the cabinet is anti-Brexit. It's
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we just don't have a representative government of obviously what the population wants. We really don't. We've been sold down the river.
Yeah, and if there is call for another snap election, you know Corbyn's gonna fucking capitalize like a motherfucker on that.
Well, and that, you see, Theresa May, she will have definitely killed off Brexit if she does that. So, I mean, I wouldn't put it past the bitch.
Yeah, well, good point.
Well, she shouldn't have called. She shouldn't have called the last one. I could have predicted what was going to happen there. Well, I did predict what was going to happen there. It was a dumb decision from the beginning. But you know, once again, they're just eroding the value of the government, and so you know, there will be a point where people just consider the government to be actively against their interests, and at that point, that's when people will say, "Well, fuck this," you know, isn't government meant to work for me?
Yeah.
And then they will demand change, and it will come either, you know, by the government changing its attitude, which I'm not sure that they really can they? Or it will be by force. And nobody wants it.
And I'm not sure if I'm getting the quote correct or not, but you'll get the point. When the governments make peaceful revolution impossible, they make a violent one inevitable.
Exactly.
So
yes, perfect. Exactly.
Yeah, and that is a scary thought when you're looking at a first world country like the UK. I mean, a violent revolution in the United Kingdom would not be a pretty affair.
Wouldn't. It really wouldn't.
Yeah.
But we've done it before. We could do it again if we had to. But
the only problem is that it didn't end so well for the last bit of people.
No, that's true. Yeah, there was a bit of a roundup afterwards, wasn't there?
Yeah, little bit, little bit of purging going on.
Yeah, but then we went back afterwards.
Well, and on the petition thing that you brought up, 40, can that even work? They already sentenced the man. He was out on parole or a suspended sentence, and that's why they were able to arrest him so quickly and sentence him within an hour. So can this petition actually work? I think the government's going to look at it and go, oh, well, write down the names of all the citizens that signed this shit. We're going to go pay them a visit.
Well, stranger things have happened, you know, on that freedom of speech rally that happened, you know, where Tommy Robinson was a few weeks ago. There was somebody notified the police or something because someone had brought their child with them. And it was a peaceful rally. There was no trouble. Everyone was having, you know, I mean, you saw it, right? It was no big deal. Just a crowd of people, and they got the parents got visit, you know, a knock on the door.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And the reason was, you know, do you think it's appropriate to be taking your child to, you know, this sort of thing? It's like, you know, having a child support agency or something, you know, the child protection agency come and knock on your door.
That's insane for the parents expressing a political discourse with their child there. Look at the Women's March with the pussy hats. How many children were in the crowd there?
Exactly. Oh yeah, it's one rule for one rule for another. Yeah.
And that's the problem. When I argue in favor of freedom of speech, I mean everybody's speech. Even the asshole that I argued with last night, he has the right to say his stupid shit, and I have the right to rebut him. But that's not the case anymore. If you say something that our overlords, you know, the great fucking government masters don't like. You're not only put on a list anymore, but now they're trying to take away your children. That way you can't raise them with your political views, because you know that's what it is. The government is more suited to raise your child than you are. Well, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you know, it's good that for what he's doing this 1984 thing. Although I do still think Animal Farm too. That would be quite good. Oh, did you get those things I sent you? The links?
Oh, I did.
I DM'd you on Discord. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I'm glad you DM'd me though. Okay, I really did want to see that cartoon. What you guys were talking about, because I've read Animal Farm. I haven't seen it, the movie though. The animated.
They did a very good job of it. It works well. So, but yeah, because we're and also Brave New World, as I say, another. I mean, the book and the film are exceptionally tedious, but the messages within them are extremely pertinent. You know, I mean, Aldous Huxley was he was very close with an awful lot of extremely powerful people. He knew what the mood was.
Yeah.
In fact, I've got an interview somewhere of him. I think it was in 1960 something at Berkeley University.
Really?
Yeah, I'll track it down for you, and I'll send you another DM. But you'll definitely find that interesting too. It'll help feed into, you know, your thought process with what you're doing with your project.
Well, I want to bring up that speech that you showed me, Cabbage. The River of Blood or whatever speech. I want to actually do a video on that now with the current events going on in your country. I would like you to help me out with that. We could record it on Discord or something. But yeah,
sure.
He was. What was that man's name again? He was decried as a racist back then, but it seems to me he was right.
He was called Enoch Powell.
Enoch Powell. Yeah.
And it was. I mean, he had his entire career ruined.
Mm-hmm.
But he was in the cabinet. I mean, he was a senior member of the government, you know, at one point. And after that speech, he was effectively just persona non grata. He was shut out of politics, and he was shunned completely. So, you know, he must have been saying something that was pretty damn accurate.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the scary part of that is that he was so incredibly accurate, and the backlash was so incredibly intense that you would think that he was privy to some insider information. Like, I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to suggest that there's some grand conspiracy, but I mean, he had to have known the politics of the people that he was involved with. The grand scheme of things and the totality of what their ideology would be if it ever came to fruition.
Absolutely. I mean, that was what he was warning. You know, he's trying to warn the people about, which is why, I mean, he had so much support from the people. But you see, with it being a party-based system here, we don't vote for the prime minister. If we could have voted him in as prime minister, you know, like in a referendum or something, he would have undoubtedly have got the vote, without a doubt. But unfortunately, the party chooses the leader. And because they shunned him and threw him out of the party, he had nowhere to go. I mean, he would have to set up his, you know, an entire separate party, which he did try to do. It's called the National Front, I think. Or the British Union Party, or BUP, I think it was, which then became the National Front. So, I mean, he tried everything he could, you know, but the establishment, I mean, that's the thing. He was very much part of the establishment, and he did know what the mindset of these people was. And I think still is, actually. I don't think it's changed that much.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Sadly.
Oh, and real quick, I was just checking the chat. Matches are fun. Congratulations on being sworn in as a Marine. That's awesome, dude.
Oh, nice. Good man. I DM'd you that link, by the way, 40. I found it.
Oh, thank you.
But,
no problem.
So, yeah, I don't know if there's any way the petitions or the protests will get Tommy out of prison. But, Cabbage, me and 40 were talking before you joined in, and I would like to hear your thoughts on this. What happens if Tommy Robinson becomes a martyr? What happens if he's killed in prison?
Oh, that would be I think that could be the flashpoint for a lot of people. I really do. I mean, number one, the funeral procedure and things like that, and a lot of people would get exceptionally pissed. That really could be a flashpoint. It really could. And if the government, I mean, this is what the government could really have snapped off more than it can chew. I don't think they recognize, rather like with Enoch Powell. Now, if they'd have put Enoch Powell in prison and he got killed, I think there'd have been a lot of, I think then they would have seen the people rise up, back then.
Yeah.
And I think it's very distinctly possible, if anything happens to him, that they should really keep him in isolation. They've got to protect him.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I mean, they have to know that Tommy Robinson truly does mean something to the people. He really is very much like an Enoch Powell figure.
Yeah.
I mean, within a 24-hour time period, you already have protesters out on the streets demanding that he be released.
Yeah.
It was only, it was within like a few hours of this dude being in prison that you already have a petition up with, a grand total of, around 150,000 people.
Yeah.
And that was when I checked like 4 or 5 hours ago. Or no, recently I checked that. Sorry. It was different, 4 or 5 hours ago. But, 100,000 plus people signing petitions of, all kinds of
like I said,
it's ridiculous, man.
And don't forget, like I said, this is a bank holiday. So a lot of people are already, they're busy and things. They'll probably get around to it when they get home. So yeah, it will grow. Plus, of course, I mean, this is the whole point of shutting down the reporting. A lot of people don't even know it's happened. I mean, the people who, maybe with Twitter and things like that, people have been notified, but there's nothing in our press. There's nothing on the news. So, like they're waiting, the information has to trickle in this case. So they can't stop the flow, but they can stem it an awful lot,
God, that's like the, literally, since you gave it to me, I've been reading 1984, and that's literally like the fucking non-persons.
Mm-hmm.
They just fucking disappear, and no one hears a goddamn thing. And they're totally erased. I mean, they're not erased. You can't erase Tommy Robinson from fucking history. He's got YouTube videos all over the place, but you can definitely, like you said, suppress the fact that he has been arrested. I bet you anything that there are more people outside of the UK that know he's been arrested than there are inside.
Oh yeah,
I mean, not be surprised.
There's been people. Who was it? I was watching somebody, and he was thanking people from Canada and Australia about it because he went to work, picked up the local newspaper, went to work, didn't know anything about it, got back home, went on the internet, and all of a sudden all this news came up from friends around the world. So there's no doubt that has had a significant effect in terms of, because I mean that's the thing, right? You imagine that the news can't report on it. Now most of the people would have got home from work on a Friday, probably gone out down to the pub or whatever, woken up on Saturday morning, and they'd have been watching the news in the evening on the TV, and nothing there. They wouldn't even know there was going to be anything. So to get that, and plus bank holiday and everything. But yeah, you wait now that people are clearly aware of what's going on. The next demonstration, I think it's going to be. It might actually be in the middle of the week. They might be doing something on Wednesday, which is good. So yeah, it's going to build. Put it that way. That was a drop in the ocean compared to. I mean, did you see the freedom, the freedom of speech one when they did the shot from, the stage?
Yeah,
and the people were just going all the way back as far as the eye could see.
Yeah, no, and I watched the beginning hour of the live feed where it showed the march and everything. Yeah, there was a ton of people at the freedom of speech. Here's something I don't think very many people are talking about. Doesn't Tommy Robinson have a wife? Does he have children as well? I mean, he has a family to support, and he's gone for 13 months. I mean, what's going to happen to her? I mean, it's a travesty.
I think Patreon's going to happen. I think that'll be taken care of.
Well, this is a crazy thing. I mean, and it really shows the British people, once they're made aware of something, just how they will act. And, like with Dankula, he wanted to raise, what was it, 150 grand for his appeal? He had that within 12 hours or within a day. He'd managed to get 150 grand out of people, to pay for his appeal. I mean, that's pretty
Okay,
fucking impressive.
I'll be right back, guys. I'm gonna go get arrested.
Fucking kidding.
But it's happened on so many different occasions. I mean, Tommy Robinson, he had an appeal, and he got everything funded within moments. In fact, before the night before Dankula went to court, I remember I was on his live stream. The night before he was to get his sentence, and I think one single donation that came in, just a single one, was for £1,500. We got fined 800.
Yeah.
And people were just throwing money at him to show their support. It's like, look, you need the money, and you can't work. Here's here's something to help you, get by. Yeah. Brilliant. I mean, it really does. It renews your sense of the kindness of humanity. The milk of human kindness. It's still out there.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. And MC, I see that you joined. Hopefully your mic's working. And
AMC.
I hope the flight wasn't too bad on your way home.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm free finally. I'm finally back home.
Damn, your mic is. I was gonna mention that last night, but I don't know if you got a new mic, but you sound fucking great, dude.
I do have a new mic.
Yeah, it's
a lot clearer.
Incredible.
I got a headset now that nice. Replaced my other one. So, cool. And nice. I'm not using the other mic because Mad Dodge mentioned it last night that it sounded better. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just use this one for now.
Nice.
Good move.
Fuck, I was gonna say something.
Well, real quick, while you try and think of what you were going to say, MC, we were talking about when push comes to shove, when the government makes peaceful revolution impossible, then violent revolution is inevitable. What do you think is going to happen in Britain, especially when it comes to the lack of freedom of speech and the lack of any reporting on anything? You can't report on the rape gangs. Nobody's allowed to report on Tommy even being arrested. They could literally put out a gag order on the whole fucking country, is what Cabbage was saying.
Mm-hmm.
This is insane. I mean, what do you think that's going to lead to?
I think the first thing it's going to lead to, and it depends on where it stems from here, but the first thing it's going to lead to is at some point, and Cabbage, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is going to be a general strike of some sort, where people say enough's enough, and they do some kind of mass protest from a strike perspective. And depending how that turns out, not in the courts, but in their legislature, in their parliament, whether or not parliament responds correctly or not, will determine whether or not this turns into a violent revolution or not.
Yep. But it's what we were saying earlier on. These are already being spoken about with different groups, around the UK, as to the best approach of, how to go about it. Right. And of course, organizing, you've got to make sure that you've got the people ready and all able to do it at the same time. I mean, it's a lot of separate little groups, and
organization will be the key. You've got to be you've got to be dedicated, and you've got to be organized. And that's what's going to take to overturn this. Because if you show any cracks in any of that, what'll happen is it'll all fall apart.
That's it. I think this is why it's good that, people, who know people, I mean, the message is getting there. So, and we're British. We're pretty good at organizing when we need to.
Good luck to you. That's all I can say. I mean, I just saw a tweet from somebody who got arrested because they had a British flag lighter.
In English. The.
I think that was a joke. That was a po to kind of point at the hypocrisy of the British government. Wolf Shot clarified that in Discord.
So, okay.
Yeah, I mean, and it was from a while ago. It was, I think it was
What's scary is that I instantly believed it. I had no doubt that it took place.
Yeah, that's the problem. You just don't know what is, how crazy this is going to get. They seem to get crazier.
They arrested Tony Robinson for what? What do they call it?
Breach of the peace. I mean, he contravened his like what you would call parole. So he ended up having to serve the rest of his suspended sentence. So he basically just got returned to prison. He wasn't retried. He just went to, and they said, well, we are charging you with this. Now that we've charged you with something, you're going back to prison. That's it.
Okay. How did he breach his parole?
They claimed that he was, I think it was a public order offense that they managed to pull out their arse.
Okay. What public order was he violating?
Well, I think they're probably trying to use incitement to, or racial hatred or something, because, he was pointing out rape gangs and they didn't want that pointing out. So that, I can't explain the crazy, there's no explaining crazy.
Okay. So basically they had him, they arrested him on something, and because he got arrested, they said that was a parole violation. So therefore, they said that he has to serve out the rest of his term. And now that they've already got him in jail, they don't have to put him back in jail.
Exactly.
They don't have to try him, right? They're not going to try him for anything new.
I don't believe.
Yeah, they just dragged him in front of whatever. Is it a judge over there, a magistrate? I'm not sure, but they dragged him in front of that immediately. It's
no jury. It's it just got dragged out. Probably a magistrate or someone like that. And that was it. Oh no, it would have to be a judge. And then not only that, he was arrested here in Leeds, but for some reason they transported him all the way to Hull to get the judge to, send him down. Hull, I mean, by American standards, it's not very far, but I mean, Leeds to Hull is, it's quite a long stretch. You'd think that we have a massive, we've got a Crown Court here, but we have our own courts in this city. I don't understand why they had to haul him all the way to Hull.
Was he initially adjudicated in Hull?
No, in Luton, I think.
Okay, then I have no. I mean,
in his hometown.
I don't understand. I can't understand where that would go then either. But then I'm not a legal scholar. I don't know the rules in England for sure.
It just seemed a very odd thing to do. So,
well, it seems like it seems like they got it in for him, and I mean that's pretty freaking obvious.
Oh, they have. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it that they were just waiting. After that, as I was saying earlier on, the freedom of speech rally that happened a few weeks ago, that when he's got so much power behind him now, the amount of people who are in support of his message is just phenomenal.
Yeah, but
and it scares the government.
This is the worst thing they could do, though.
Yep.
If you as much as I can't stand people like Saul Alinsky, they're not wrong about several different things. They're not wrong about what it takes to get a movement off the ground. And when they talk about making people martyrs and it just makes the movement stronger, he's not wrong about that. All right. Yeah. That is true analysis, all right, or accurate analysis, in my opinion, of how you build up these kinds of movements. Now, I personally think that Saul Alinsky being a leftist, because of what leftism always leads to, the fact is a problem, all right? But I've never argued with the fact that the man had some intelligence behind him about how to go about it. I just looked at it as something that's nefarious, all right? And frankly, quite frankly, I still do. But my goodness, if the government does this, all they're doing is building his movement for him.
Yeah. And that's exactly how it's worked. I mean, if they'd have, and the thing is, you got to remember that they've been after him for a long time. This isn't like this didn't pop out of the woodwork, just overnight. He's been talking out an awful lot and shaming and embarrassing, a lot of the establishment, especially the police forces, of course, who are allowing these rape gangs to just run amok.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people with egg on the, he's put a lot of egg on people's faces, and people want their revenge. But like you said, I totally agree. This will blow up in their faces. And if anything happens to Tommy Robinson, as I said before, that's going to be a flashpoint. That will be a flashpoint. That's certainly one opportunity. If it's going to get violent, that would be when it would,
Well, if he gets attacked in jail, and nothing, and gets harmed significantly, he'll be a martyr then. I mean, that'll complete his martyrdom, and he'll be a rallying cry for decades and decades to come.
He will.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, it really sucks to say, but like, as effective as rules for radicals are, I really don't want to stoop that damn low. Because I mean, as it stands right now, we got a really good thing going. #resist. But you know, Dankula got, what was it, 10 grand from Notch, and then Notch also gave another 10 grand to Sargon the Pussy Boy, who won't stand up for Robinson because of, you know, my family and stuff. But aside from that, we got financial backing and we have the support of the people. I mean, the only thing we lack control of is the government. And I would much rather stick with the good thing than that we actually have than, you know, become our enemy, so to speak. You know,
Well, your tactics,
I get your
right?
point. Yeah.
The war is determined by the tactics, okay, and who started the tactics, and whether anybody wants to believe this or not, the left started this. So the tactics are already determined. All right, whether the tactics are done by the left or the right, the tactics have already been determined. Now, I understand that might be a kind of an esoteric comment, or you know, or a viewpoint, but this is the way it is. It's just like in a warfare. All right, the rules of the war are defined by who uses what. All right, if the aggressor uses chemical weapons, guess what? Chemical weapons are in the mix. All right, if the aggressor just uses bows and arrows, right, then for the most part, people will try to stick to bows and arrows, at least from a moralistic standpoint. Okay, now I'm not saying that that's a smart thing to do, but that it's determined by who fires first as to what the rules of the warfare are going to be. When you put it down to a human level, and this is something that I try to explain to people when we're dealing with things like the Palestinians. If you think strapping bombs to a child's chest is okay, and sending them not to go attack your enemy's forces, but to attack the enemy's support elements, meaning their women and children, and send them into schools, that's the kind of warfare you're going to get. And it's not going to stop until everyone is using the same tactics, because they've established that that's the norm. That's the norm of combat.
But I can't see the Israelis doing the same thing in response. They got way too many bombs.
Well,
they bomb the living shite out of them.
But that they can do, and they haven't been doing that. Let's be frank. If the Israelis decided to start launching artillery, massed artillery, and taking out grid after grid, they could do that.
Retake the West Bank.
Well, I mean, I'm not please don't misunderstand. I'm not advocating it. I'm just saying.
No, I know you're not. I was just making a joke. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying that this is what is basically going to end up happening, in my opinion. All right, I don't like the fact that that's what's going to happen, but that is. If you end up arresting people for freedom of speech,